So, dear Anders, thank you very much for your kind words. I would like also to start by thanking Nicola Bennington and Geisler for their kind invitation, and also Ingrid for the wonderful organization. Let me tell you that I'm really very happy to be with you today. These are very busy times for the Innovative Medicines Initiative for a number of reasons, but I can tell you that more than ever, the patients are really the focus of most of our activities. And I think that this meeting is really timely for a number of reasons. There is a first obvious reason, which is that, as you know, it's the time now that for preparation of the so-called Horizon 2020, which is also very important in your agenda. We are talking about the program related to research and innovation, but also, and I think it's very important for you to consider this, program related to public health, to IT technologies and nanotechnologies, which are and will be more and more relevant for the future of medicine. But it's also an important time to discuss how indeed to better consider patients' perspective in drug development. Because, as you know, our healthcare systems are under increasing pressure. And I'm sure that some of you perfectly realize, when I see the geographic distribution of the participants, that in some European countries, not far from here, patients can no more have access to the medicines they need. The question is indeed whether the principle of solidarity between citizens will be sustainable, or whether austerity will amplify health inequalities across Europe. And in this context, it is critical more than ever to indeed revisit the whole process of drug development and the conditions of patient access to innovative drugs. That is exactly the ambition of IMI, with one core concept: collaboration, partnership, and I was very happy to see these words on the posters that are just outside this room. Collaboration between the different actors. And it's clear that when we are talking about collaboration, partnership, all stakeholders recognize that patients should indeed be the focus of these collaborative efforts. But also that patients and carers, and there also I was very happy to see the importance that you dedicate to carers, to caregivers, that they should play a much more active role in the definition of priorities and also in the assessment of the benefits and potential side effects of new medicine. So what I will do in this presentation is first to tell you what has already been achieved in IMI through a number of projects which are now up and running. I will then briefly discuss how I see the development of homeopathy in the new European healthcare environment. And I will finish by drawing your attention to future IMI activities, aiming at enhancing the impact of patients on our projects. So, let's start by telling you that as we speak, we have 40 projects, research and development, but also education and training projects ongoing. And as you can see, they involve a number of teams from the industry, from academia, also from small and medium-sized enterprise. And just to tell you that really to provide a better support to those companies is another priority for us at this time. But also regulators and patients' organization. And I must tell you, and this is one of the reasons of my presence here today, is that we really hope to increase the participation of patients' organization and also to provide new opportunities for patients and patients' organizations to have a real impact on our projects. As you can see, we have now more than 4,500 research scientists in industry, in academia, working in the context of the IMI projects. And we estimate that around 1,500 new jobs were created through IMI. So what I will do now is to use certain examples, and I'm sorry that of course I cannot speak about the 40 projects which are currently up and running, but I will use a few examples to illustrate how indeed IMI is already now improving the productivity of the pharmaceutical sector, and also, and that's obviously a major concern for all of you, how IMI is implementing innovative approaches for unmet public health needs. So before going into some of those examples, I would like to emphasize what I considered as an essential condition for the success of this public-private partnership. And this is to have a neutral, trusted party. You can use a number of expressions for that, honest broker, safe harbor, what you want. But I think it's critical that all partners indeed know that there is a body which can help to facilitate, to catalyze, to enable projects to deliver. And that's indeed our role with my team. And I think that this neutral trust party is indeed critical for a number of reasons. For example, achieving intellectual property agreement. But also it is essential because it provides a platform, a forum, where indeed the dialogue between patients, regulators, payers, industry, academia can indeed be organized in the right way. As I told you, our projects really are now delivering. And they are delivering from different perspectives. We are developing new models which are now used in industry, which are now indeed considered by regulatory agencies. We have indeed new biomarkers which are emerging for drug development. Already new potential drug targets have been identified. I will give you some examples of what has been done in terms of clinical trials, as well, which is critical, how we try to change the way data coming from patients can be used indeed to improve drug development. Finally, of course, I have to mention here that we also deliver important programs to prepare this new generation of scientists that we need to indeed take the best advantage of these partnerships. So how can we measure the real success of all this? I already mentioned a few, the fact that we develop new models, new tools, new methodologies, but it's good to have these new tools developed. What is critical is to have them accepted as new standards, and this is something we are paying special attention. And these also apply to the definition of disease, which is so important to develop new, better tailored therapy. We are also looking at the way these new standards are used in industry, of course, but also in clinical practice, in clinical care. Finally, and this is a point I would like to emphasize here, because when I'm asked how at the end do you consider that the most important measure, my answer is simple. It will be to look at how IMI indeed had an impact on the guidelines produced by regulatory authorities. So now a few examples, and again they are selected, and you can obviously discuss this, the way they were selected, but I think they will give you a sense of what has been already achieved. I will start with what has been done in lung disorders, first in severe asthma, and this type of slide really emphasizes what Anders also underlined, which is this unique collaborative intelligent network which were created through IMI with the best partners possible in industry, academia, patients' organization, other non-profit organizations. And in the case of asthma, what has been already done is to develop a consensus about the definition of the severe form of asthma, but they are doing much more now. And actually, by conducting clinical investigation, and I'm very pleased to mention that indeed the recruitment for this investigation had achieved its target, as you can see here. And the idea there is really to stratify the patient with asthma in order to better adapt the new therapies to the individual patient's needs. It's critical, and this U-Biopret is a good example, to really involve patients from all countries. And this is just an example of a recent contribution of mother from Lithuania. Her boy is suffering from asthma, and she's really actively involved in supporting this type of research. Focusing on what is done for and with patients, I would like to emphasize in the area of lung disorders this proactive consortium, which is developing patient-reported outcome tools to measure the severity of the disease and the potential benefit that new drugs can afford. And this is done by rather simple means. The patient, him or herself, is reporting the symptoms and their intensities through a standardized questionnaire. The answers are transmitted through a smartphone. And they also measure their own physical activities with these dedicated tools. The NewMeds Consortium, which is dedicated to schizophrenia and depression, is another good example on how IMI is already impacting on the way drugs are developed. What, in a nutshell, this consortium already achieved is the demonstration that it's possible to demonstrate the efficacy of a new drug targeting schizophrenia to reduce the number of patients enrolled, to reduce the duration of the observation, just by selecting the patients with the appropriate gender balance and focusing on the most relevant symptoms, and also enrolling patients at the early stages of their disease. I would like to emphasize this project PROTECT for a number of reasons. First, it is coordinated by the European Medicine Agency. And second, because it already delivers very important tools to assess risk-benefit of drugs. You know, this is a critical issue. It's really important that we all agree on an objective assessment of indeed how the innovative drugs are impacting human health. Actually, this is true for therapies, but it is also true for vaccines, for prevention of diseases. You know, this question of risk-benefit assessment is really central. And just to give you one example, what this consortium did was to develop a new method to assess the risk-benefit of a drug which is used in multiple sclerosis. The name is Tysabri. And this is a very interesting story because this very efficient drug was actually withdrawn for some time from the market because of very severe but very rare side effects, which is this progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. Now, the drug was reintroduced on the market because the patients themselves were telling the authorities, look, we know the benefit that these drugs can provide us. We are ready to take this small risk. You have to listen to us. And actually this was done, so the drug was reintroduced. But now what this project is doing is really developing tools to really measure the risk-benefit ratio. In green, you have the benefit in terms of reduction of relapses, reduction of disability progression of these multiple sclerosis patients. And in red, you have, the consequences, the weight of the side effects. And this progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, as you can see here, although it is quite severe, if you look at the number of patients suffering from the disease, actually the weight is quite low, so that the overall benefit is indeed significant. And actually there are now tools to identify the patient who might be prone to develop this rare complication. And if we succeed to develop this type of tools for, other drugs, this might have a dramatic impact to accelerate the access of patients to beneficial drugs. So, as I said, this project is led by the European Medicine Agency, and actually, the so-called regulatory science will become more and more important. Let me tell you that to have all this translated in standard of care, we also obviously need better informed patients. We have to indeed foster changes in mindset in industry. We need also a new generation of regulators, and actually this is what you can find now outlining science with this idea that, you have a pipelines of new drugs, but you have also a pipeline of these new scientists working in regulatory agencies who will play such an important role. And actually, if you look at this recent Nature publication, you will see that IMI is mentioned several times. So another example is the work which is done on to tackle autism. And again, this is a unique consortium with the best scientists, I would say, almost worldwide. There are also very good team in the US, both in industry and academia. But what is unique here is not only the excellence, it's the way people collaborate together. And this has been recognized, by Autism Speaks, which is the most important charity about autism working in the United States. And they came to us to say, what you do is so important that we would like to provide additional funding. And this is indeed what they are currently doing. And just to tell you that the output of this consortium in terms of scientific publication is quite remarkable, with this publication in these top journals. So publication, that's fine, but what is as important is that the fact that on the basis of their work, the European Medicine Agencies is already considering new ways to approach the development of medicinal products against this disorder. What this consortium is also doing, and this is also very relevant to what you are doing, is to develop new networks for clinical investigations. So that we have now across Europe a number of clinical sites which are indeed ready to look and investigate the potential benefit of new drugs emerging. We have another area where we established this clinical network, which is the area of antimicrobial resistance, which is so important in terms of public health. Just think at the severe infection caused by multi-resistant bacteria in newborns, but also in adults with these destructive fascial lesions caused by these bacteria. You have also this ventilation-associated pneumonia in intensive care unit. And sometimes it becomes impossible to treat these patients because we don't have antibiotics active against those microbes. So we are putting a lot of effort in tackling these issues and to accelerate the development of this new generation of antibiotics through different approaches. Related to this, one of our consortium is developing point-of-care tests, which will allow, as soon as the patient enters the hospital, to identify not only the microbe causing the infection he's suffering from, but to immediately detect that this microbe is resistant to antibiotic, which will be very important to treat the patient correctly, but also to organize the clinical trials for new antibiotics in a much more efficient manner. You know that drug safety is critical, and we are supporting many consortium working on this, and I just want to emphasize this one, the ATOX consortium, which is using in silico approach computer models to mimic the action of potential drugs on ion channels in the heart. And it's quite remarkable that they developed a method by which, by just entering the formula of a new compound, you simulate what would be the electrocardiogram of a patient exposed to the drug. So by doing so, you can indeed predict potential side effects at the heart level without the need to administer the compound to patients and even to animals. Very relevant to this audience and to patients is the work of this consortium, which develop new approach to record health data by the use of these electronic health records, and I realize that this is obviously a topic of major interest for EUPATI. Indeed, to collect clinical data in a new way and really to ensure that we take the best advantage of pooling data from large number of patients is very high on our agenda. For example, the EMIF program is using this big data approach for diseases such as Alzheimer's, diabetes, soon Parkinson, lupus, and rheumatoid arthritis. Why is it so important? I have no time to elaborate on this, but you have to understand that one of the most successful approach in the identification and development of innovative drugs and identifying new targets is at looking at rare disease. And I just put here a number of examples of drugs which were initially developed and approved for rare disorders and subsequently applied to more common disorders. And the most recent example is the agents which are developed to tackle hypercholesterolemia. And if you are interested in this subject, I really recommend that you have a look at this recent paper explaining how, by studying very rare patients with mutation in a gene encoding this PCSK9 enzyme, it was possible to demonstrate that indeed targeting this enzyme is probably the most promising tool today to indeed treat patients with hypercholesterolemia. So, what IMI is doing is really establishing these collaborative intelligence networks, and recently in collaboration with Thomson Reuters, we were able to map the interactions that were fostered through IMI project, and this is most likely a consequence of indeed our project, because as you can see, these collaborations are increasing over time. So just to conclude, I would like to emphasize the importance of education and training program, and I'm very pleased to see here in the audience leaders of the other education and training program. I saw Ingrid, I saw Mike, and others, and I think that's very important that there are indeed links between these education and training programs for scientists and the UPATI program. Finally, I would like to conclude by telling you that IMI will expand the scope of its activity by considering that it's not enough to have innovative drugs, to have them reaching the patient. We have to think about new ways to have these drugs reaching the market, and for example, this adaptive licensing approach is one approach that is currently considered as a potential future IMI topic. So this will be my last slide. I think that it's quite clear that public-private partnerships such as IMI can indeed address key scientific challenges, develop the tools we need, considering new pathways to accelerate patient access to innovative therapies. And again, I think that to have patients better informed, and this is the key mission of IMI, will be critical to have this partnership delivering all the benefit we can anticipate. So just to finish with, I'm really pleased to invite you all to attend our next stakeholders forum in Brussels next month. And as you will see, we will have a couple of really impressive speakers, including a Nobel laureate and the key policy makers in Europe. And as you see here, this Stakeholders Forum will be focused on the brain. Actually, May 2013 will be the month of the brain across Europe. With this, I thank you for your attention.